What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if neglected Naruto finds Jarvis? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. This is the tesseract that you were looking for, the woman said with a soft tone. It glowed with beauty and seemed like nothing more than a glorified paperweight. The trouble she went through to get it was admirable. It doesn't seem powerful. Neither does this fruit, the man replied with the same tone. He saw that there were only a few bites left. Seeing the power the woman received from it, he wanted to try his hand, only to find the surface as hard as steel. Why can't I bite it? Same reason why I can't use the tesseract. The woman replied ambiguously. My body cannot make room for the power within. With a quick motion, she tossed the glowing cube to the purple man sitting in his floating seat. He caught the cube all the while, returning the fruit. Pale white eyes met with eyes of red. A mutual understanding fell between the two. To think, a titan and a goddess meeting on slightly civil terms. Taking a bite of the fruit, the woman quickly turned her back to the Mad Titan, as he was called by his foes. Thanos, she said, we have a deal. I will use my powers to aid you in keeping Galactus away from your interests. But I would be sure that you keep your promise in staying away from my planet. Thanos laid into his seat. Kaguya, we've known of each other for many years and you don't trust me? Of course I don't. The woman glared menacingly, the vertical Sharingan Rinnegan hybrid on her forehead blaring with heat. You're strong, I'll admit, but not even Asgardians and their mighty Odin will fight me. They know their place, as should you. I understand, Kaguya. Thanos glared, clasping his hands beneath his furrowed chin. You've grown more violent. It's no matter. The horned woman quickly turned on her heels, levitating off the stony steps. My son's descendants will help me in containing Galactus. And you get to continue your quest for the Infinity Stones you're constantly searching for. Go. Thanos took a deep breath. My Chitauri will escort you. If any one of your slimy shits get anywhere near me. Kaguya glared, flaring her chakra in all directions. There'll be hell to pay. We aren't allies and we sure as hell aren't friends. Thanos' chair rocked, tumbling against the rocks beneath him. Steps collapsed and even asteroids yards away began to crumble to dust. What we have is an agreement I will see come to fruition. Your change in demeanor is a threat to me and my domain. Thanos rose from his seat, voice bellowing like thunder. A tick mark formed when he realized that Kaguya hadn't once flinched. If anything, she seemed unapologetic and almost unimpressed. Through clenched teeth, the Titan spat. What makes you think you can defeat me and my Chitauri army? I have no doubts of my abilities to defeat you. She replied. There are things on Earth that not even Galactus has seen. With that, the woman eased her power. Thanos visibly eased, leaning into his seat. Suddenly, he felt a spike in power come from the woman. Anticipating an attack, 5 Chitauri drew their weapons in preparation. Kaguya was a terrifying woman when scorned. Space and time ripped open before the seated Titan. It was darker than night and filled with less than the void itself. She smirked at him, taking a step into the hole. Before she could fully disappear, she halted for just a moment to face him. My sons and I will destroy any and all opposition one day. We'll be the most powerful beings in the galaxy, she said, the Sharingan Rinnegan hybrid spinning like a whirlwind. And if you ever think you can step foot on my home, I don't think I need to say what'll happen. Why, you don't understand. Kaguya roared over the chaos of the battle. I need this power. We need this power. Mother, we understand perfectly. Hagoromo roared back. You want to protect us, but at what cost? You've brought nothing but death and destruction to our home. Hagoromo is right, Hamura replied sadly. You promised peace, but you've only angered the gods. There are no gods but me. Kaguya shouted. I have defended this world from what lies beyond for decades, and this is the thanks I'm given. We appreciate everything you've wanted to do and accomplished. Hagoromo responded adamantly, staff in hand. But what you're doing now is wrong. Enough talking, brother. Hamura shouted, stabbing his staff into the dirt. We have to end this and finish the job mother started. Fine. The two sped through hand seals. Kaguya held onto the grip she had on her tailed beast. No. If you seal me and the Jubi away, you risk opening our home to the will of Thanos. Don't do it, please. Mother. Hagoromo bit his lip, still channeling his chakra. I'm sorry, for peace to truly reign on Earth, Chibaku Tensai. The twins roared out, clapping their hands together, gathering all the chakra they could maintain. The earth cracked, spreading in all directions, letting the sea rush in like a tsunami. Earth split, rising to the sky, meeting with the Jubi and Kagaya, merging and building around the two. The Jubi thrashed and bellowed, howling into the scarlet night. Its 10 tails dug into the earth, splitting mountains and creating storms with each slash. Kaguya's eyes widened for a moment when she realized the Jubi had shrunk, dwindling with power. She gritted her teeth, Byakugan eyes activated with rage. Her breath hitched when she realized that her most powerful technique was being used against her. She struggled against the gravitational pull, and couldn't even create a portal to escape from. Struggling to bring her arms to form hand seals, she watched with horror as the Jubi, a great being of massive power and destruction, was degraded to a bone-like statue, screaming like a bawling child. Its hands had grown chains, binding it to the stones of the Chibaku Tensai. It fought back, its 9 eyes shutting painfully. It cried, begging for help, but Kagaya could offer no such help. Chains of chakra formed around her wrists, pulling her towards the epicenter of the technique. I can't believe my own sons won't see the truth. Kagaya shed a single tear, leaning against the rocks and boulders, pressing against her body. One day, they'll see I was right. They'll call my name begging me to help them, crying out for forgiveness? I curse you, Hamura and Hagoromo. Kagaya shed more tears, shutting her Byakugan eyes. Your family lines will be cursed with death and destruction. You advocate peace as I did. You will bring death and pain, as I did. Now all she could hear was the rocks and boulders crashing against her already pressurized body. Tumbling and merging together with each passing second. Light slowly disappeared, cutting her view of her beloved home. Kagaya gulped. Air became thin, and soon enough, her world grew colder by the second. Ice formed in the cracks of the boulders, gripping onto her like the very chains that bound her. Let time pass, and one day. Kagaya frowned. I'll find the perfect descendants to carry on my legacy. One day, Earth will no longer have to be afraid of the universe. She's gone? The man asked, rising from his seat. What do you mean she's gone? Master, the sniveling being cowered. Her signature has disappeared. We can't sense where she is or if she's even in the dimension. Who could do such a thing? Thanos asked, completely flabbergasted. What of her clones that she'd left on many planets? Where are they? Collapsed or became wrapped in their cocoons once more. The minion backed away when the giant titan jumped down to his steps. His face bore a new expression, one the minion couldn't discern or comprehend. It was almost as if Thanos was worried, or worse, afraid. Any assets that Kagaya had left for us, they're gone. I have watched for centuries. I have watched my sons destroy this world more than I ever had. I am the monster? I am the traitor? I am the one forgotten? Who speaks of the name Kagaya anymore? Thanos even disappeared from my sight. Those fools beyond the galaxy think I'm weak. They think my bloodline is weak. They're not wrong. They're not right. I can't stay here and watch my home burn with chakra that should have only been mine and mine alone. They can't control the power of gods without wanting to become what they're not. Only I can control it. I am the only god. My sons were fools. My sons were bigger fools. Their sons and their sons were the greatest fools. Now, chakra has been weaponized longer than the Jubi's own existence. How can they justify my imprisonment? How can I be left here, frozen in space, forgotten? No, not anymore. No longer will I wait, I must plan for my return. Suddenly, chakra was born from her body once again, spreading from her arms. Before anything could be done though, the chains that bound her were awoken. She gritted her teeth for the first time in centuries. The chains glowed, absorbing her chakra, warming her arms and body. Skin thawed and sleeves finally rippled. She could sense that the seals etched into the chains had weakened. Kagaya winced as a piece of her left. Almost like her soul had split. She growled, feeling her chakra flow for the first time. The seals were weak, but she'd managed to force a sliver of her power free. It was as dark as night, bleeding like ooze. It had one white eye and no mouth. As far as she knew, it was silent. And that was the exact thing she needed, a silent assassin. One that could endure pain of unbelievable measures, one that could bring forth her will. That is what this was. She smirked. Eyes shut, but her Sharingan Rinnegan eye spinning wildly. This being will be her will, her instrument to bring change. Too long she'd been complacent, frozen in cryogenic sleep. Time had been lost to her carelessness, but no longer. She will find the ones who will embrace her goals with open arms and protect Earth from the likes of Thanos and Galactus. Even from the Kree and Dark Elves, and if she wills it, the Celestials themselves. She will be the true protector from the shadows. Kaguya thought to herself, smiling. Even if she had to paint herself as the enemy, the progenitor of destruction and chakra of its purest form, then so be it. From great peril, great heroes are born, that is a fact. And the fact is, the galaxy is in need of heroes, and she already had an idea of where to look. Black Zetsu, go. I'm certain Thanos had realized by now. The tesseract I gave him was a cube I put a strong fuinjutsu over. If he attacks Asgard, he'll force too many things too soon. Sneak into Odin's treasure trove and take it. Make sure you only take the tesseract and hide it. Instigate a war with the Dark Elves, instigate war between the Frost Giants. Kaguya smirked. The people of Earth are primitive right now. Keep the Asgardians' eyes averted. Be unseen. Be quiet and most of all, be strong. Kill any and all who get in your way. The eye on her forehead swiveled, turning to face the one eye of her child. Yes, mother? Sasuke? Naruto was worried, orange eyes meeting with Sasuke's Sharingan Rinnegan eyes. Don't make any sudden movements, Naruto. Sasuke's reply was just as confused. Kaguya held them, thumbs rubbing against their cheeks. She couldn't control herself. Their goals were etched into their eyes. She could see it even without the Byakugan. Her heart raced, staring at the two. Their goals were the same as hers. They were heads and tails and she was the coin. They were her. They were her sons. Tears welled in her eyes when she met theirs, seeing the fear they felt. Didn't they know that she was their mother? Hagoromo, Hamura, she thought, tears burning against her cheeks. It's your mother, please. Remember me. Naruto's expression softened greatly, immediately reminding her of Hagoromo. Sasuke retained his seriousness, reminding her of Hamura. They were Indra and Ashura. They were Madara and Hashirama. They were Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. And they were the ones to inherit her will. She smiled suddenly, pulling the two close to her. Their shared expression was of nothing but horror. No more than a silent whisper, she wished the two good luck. Kaguya hurled the pair back towards their teammates with enough strength to knock them all into oblivion. She smiled, sensing the future. It seems Black Zetsu placed the tesseract on Earth with foreigners. Kaguya shut her eyes. Foreigners that worship the Asgardians, this will work in my favor. For now, I must bring about my plans. Naruto, Sasuke, you have broken the curse I placed upon my sons. Now, fulfill your destiny and protect your home. Chakra exploded from within her, shooting in all directions. Naruto, Sasuke and their two teammates were horrified of what was to come. She watched them take up defensive positions. Maybe even giving the whole team a chance, they'll need each, wait. No, not the Kamui. Kakashi's eyes had turned into Mangekyo's Sharingan bearing none other than the Kamui. She gritted her teeth and knew that if they tried to teleport away, that would only throw her centuries of planning out of the window. No, she knew what she had to do. Speeding through hand seals faster than the speed of light, she clapped her hands together. Roaring out an unknown jutsu, the world began to warp. Kakashi's Kamui warped and changed directions. Sasuke, Naruto and Sakura clung to their sensei in complete fear. The Kamui never felt like this. Sasuke, Naruto cried. She's let her guard down. We can seal her, then let's get it on then. Sasuke roared back. Keep the Kamui going, the dimension is collapsing. Chaos reigned, shaking the world they were fighting in, breaking the terrain and shattering the dimension. Kaguya shut her eyes in relief. Chakra exploded around her, filling her not with dread of fear, but content. The Chibaku Tensei was her final prison and it was where she will remain until someone, anyone, could manage to kill her. She was the bad guy this time. But while she was beaten, she had succeeded. Let it end. May 1, 2012 Nevada, USA. Helicopters whirred into the night as men and women rushed back and forth throughout the compound. Sirens blared with the repeated message evacuate the facility, this is not a drill. A clamor to get to the first transports out of the facility brought a systemized chaos. Personnel were quickly escorted to their armored SUVs, engines turned and ready to escape. SHIELD agents stood watch, controlling the flow. Moving and giving commands, the facility was on lockdown. Over the chaos, a shield helicopter landed upon the landing pad, blades slowing to sit still. Suddenly, from within, the helicopter door swung open to reveal none other than SHIELD agent Maria Hill and SHIELD director Nick Fury. Obviously in distress, the two kept their worries to themselves, knowing full well that the calm they'd managed to bring would be destroyed the moment weakness was shown. The two walked along with Agent Phil Coulson as he filled them in on the situation. The Tesseract was being tested on after Howard Stark first found the damn thing. The power that was accomplished through Hydra and their machines was a power that SHIELD had wanted for decades. The power to keep true peace. Nevertheless, their attempts had been futile, always ending with something blowing up or many somethings blowing up. Nick Fury was growing impatient and the money that was getting funneled for their experiments seemed like it was going to waste. They had one goal in mind: understand the Tesseract and unlock the secrets within. A remarkable device, always glowing like a force of unlimited power. To harness it was the ultimate goal. Director Fury, after a quick and chaste conversation with Agent Hill, he entered the testing area with little to no idea of what he was about to witness. Scientists ran back and forth, calculating, computing and writing reports on clipboards. The centerpiece of the room though, was the cube, lodged into a type of energy funneling device. Given the wires and glowing machines. "Talk to me, Doctor." "Director." Dr. Eric Selvig looked up. "The Tesseract is misbehaving. Is that some kind of joke?" Nick Fury asked. "Not at all." Selvig sighed. "It's not just acting, it's behaving." "Where's Agent Barton?" Director Fury asked. Dr. Eric Selvig didn't even look up to the one-eyed man. "The Hawk? He's just in his nest." "Doctor," another scientist called, "we're getting a series of ripples throughout the Tesseract's magnetic sphere. And something else entirely. We've never seen such energy before." "Let me see." Eric rushed forward, pushing the scientist aside. "Director, I advise that you clear the way. We don't know what's happening here." Before the two could make any movements, a great blue beam rushed from the Tesseract and into the containment field. It grew larger and brighter, filling the area with blue energy unlike anything seen before. Assault rifles were raised and pistols were drawn. Scientists backed away, hiding behind the SHIELD gunmen. Almost complete uncertainty grew within them, watching the glowing sphere only grow bigger. Slowly but surely, the sphere began to fade, revealing a dark silhouette of a man. In his hands was a spiked scepter, glowing ominously, and a sickening smirk spread across his face. Fury stared at him with a confused expression, hand dropping to the Sig Sauer strapped to his thigh. Around him, SHIELD agents raised their MP5 submachine guns towards the newcomer, tentatively advancing closer to the man. He rose, scepter glowing with a terrifying hue. The smile had grown as well, practically ripping his face in two. He watched them, almost as confused as he was. He couldn't sense anything from them, they were sentient meatbags. There was no power here, no one to challenge him. But that was when he saw it. The glowing Tesseract. The object the eternally infuriated Thanos wanted so dearly. It was just like he remembered, except this time it was practically pulsating with energy. "These humans don't know what they're doing." Loki smirked, rising with the scepter glowing as well. "Let me teach them." He shot the scepter forward, a powerful blast of energy rushed ahead. Men and women were forced into the air, dead before they hit the ground. Machines and wires were cut, swinging in all directions, raining sparks. Bullets were shot at the frost giant only to bounce off of his impenetrable armor. Loki needed to test himself. He wanted to use this power to its fullest extent. Jumping forward, kicking one of the SHIELD gunmen away, he lodged the scepter into a man, killing him immediately. Almost like a gust of wind, two knives were hurled, embedding into the necks of unsuspecting agents. Humans were weak compared to a frost giant, it would seem. Kicking the corpse from his scepter, his eyes were only for the Tesseract. Sensing something from behind, he ducked, raising the scepter to the chest of the agent. Slowly but surely, energy spiraled up to the man's eyes, hypnotizing him. Loki smiled. The man was now no more than a thrall. No words were shared between the newcomer and his victims. The energy the Tesseract had released was beginning to build in the containment field and build with pressure. The frost giant quickly noticed Nick Fury shoving the Tesseract into a suitcase and knew he had to be quick. Soon enough the energy would go critical and everything would be destroyed. I don't think so. Loki walked forward, ready to forcefully take the suitcase. Channeling the power of the scepter, a blast of light forced the suitcase from Nick Fury's hands and forcing the man to the other side of the room, close to the shuddering containment field. Agent Barton quickly made a move to salvage the situation, but it was no use. Just like the agent before, the scepter's power spread and made Barton no less than a hungry thrall. His eyes were no longer brown but instead, an icy, empty blue. "Drop the suitcase." Fury's voice sounded struggled. He raised his Sig Sauer, aiming down the iron sights. Dust fell from the ceiling. All survivors of Loki's entrance looked onward in horror. Cracks formed against the concrete containment field as the Tesseract's energy built once more. Fury rushed ahead, trying his hardest to get as far away as possible, all the while firing off a few shots towards the god. Fury slid against the tiled floor. "Director, do you hear that?" Eric asked worriedly. "Something else is coming through the Tesseract's energy sphere." "Another?" Fury roared. "Another?" Loki turned to the compressing energy with a raised brow. "I was not expecting another." Graw. All eyes went as wide as plates. The shout sounded human, but animalistic at the same time. Power unlike anything felt before, washed over them in waves. Even Loki trembled in its aura. Finally, 4 silhouettes formed in the compressed ball of light. Loki clenched his jaw, gripping his scepter with a vice-like grip. "Not these 4 again." "Hey!" The Tesseract's power exploded outwards, covering them in calm and fear. From the epicenter stood 4 very unlikely individuals. Very, very unlikely individuals. The tallest had 2 red eyes with strangely shaped pupils and gravity-defying gray hair. He wore a headband with a metal plate, etched with a strange symbol. Around his torso was a burned and tattered flak jacket of sorts. Next to him was an even stranger enigma. She had pink hair. It seemed natural yet unnatural. Green eyes. A stark contrast to the other 3, and dressed somewhat the same as the first man. But it was the 2 boys that really caught their attention. One had a purple eye with weird ripple effects. He was covered in a purple flame and gave off an aura of darkness. His left hand was exploding with black lightning. The centerpiece, though, was a boy of same height, but glowed with golden fire. His face was adorned with thick black lines, 3 on each cheek and strange black markings all over his body. Power radiated off of him in a magnitude that not even the Tesseract managed. In his hands, 2 black staves that seemed to absorb light wherever it was. Fury watched the world around them calm down and the power of the Tesseract waned in their presence. The cracks stopped forming and the facility stopped shuddering beneath the Tesseract's rage. But it was Loki's expression that had him worried. He slowly raised his pistol, unsure of whom to shoot at. But as they say, actions speak louder than words. "You again?" the golden boy roared. "Why you? I'll shove this staff into your gut, you bastard." "Sasuke, come on. You again?" Naruto shouted with rage echoing with his chakra. "Why you? I'll shove this staff into your gut, you bastard." "Sasuke, come on." Fury watched them go at it, swinging their weapons with professional precision. A pair unlike any other, the golden boy kicked, sending energy in all directions when his foot met the scepter. The black-haired boy rushed for his unprotected flanks with a sword shimmering with black lightning. Turning his single eye towards the remaining of the newcomers, he was caught with a pleasant surprise. "Sakura, go and heal as many as you can." Kakashi shouted. "I'll use the Kamui to teleport the remainder of the Tesseract's power out of here." "Hi," the pink-haired girl replied. Fury eyed them carefully. She rushed forward, sliding against the tiles, hands glowing with a green aura. She rested her palms against the man's neck, pulling the knife free. Nick narrowed his eye. The gaping hole that was left in the knife's wake was shutting and new skin was reforming. These newcomers were something else entirely. "Sasuke, this guy is starting to piss me off." Naruto sped forward, kicking and swinging his staves with rage. "He keeps dropping clones and I can barely land a hit. Now you know how I felt every time we fought." Sasuke scowled, ducked from Loki's wide swipe. "I never used clones this much." Naruto jumped back, hurling one of his staves only to have it deflected by the Nordic god. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 clones were born of smoke, catching Sasuke and Naruto as quickly as possible. When the glowing boy stretched his arm for a bit, He was delivered a deadpanned expression via Sasuke. To think he's stronger than me. Sasuke cracked his knuckles when Naruto simply stuck his tongue at him. The two turned their heads to face the Nordic god with frowns. Loki was enjoying their confrontation like it was some sort of game. You know, Loki smiled, while you two wasted your time worrying about me and my clones. Naruto clenched his teeth. I swear, don't you disappear. Slowly, the Gudadama staves shrunk back into their spherical form, leaving Naruto with a growing scowl. Well, Sasuke lowered his guard. We got carried away. Sakura, how's everyone doing? Fine, she responded. Some of them are taking to the healing chakra well while the rest are too far gone. Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked. What are you doing? Containing the energy blasts and sending them into the Kamui dimension. Kakashi responded quickly. We need to calm the situation down if we're gonna be gathering any information. Alright. Nick Fury finally took it as his cue to take action. His pistol was raised aimed at the four shinobi. Naruto raised a brow while Sasuke looked just as confused. We don't know who the hell you four are and we sure as hell don't. Tsukuyomi. Sasuke mumbled. The remaining SHIELD agents collapsed with Nick Fury leading the fall. Naruto and Sakura simply shrugged and turned their heads back to the mess that was created. There, they won't bother us for now. Sakura, you need to finish up healing those you can and then, we have to go. Agreed. Kakashi sighed, feeling blood rush from his Mangekyo eyes. We all saw the same glimpse of Kaguya's vision. That guy Loki. And to think, Kaguya was supposed to be the enemy. Naruto frowned. Kinda reminiscent of someone, isn't it, Sasuke? The Uchiha found a soft smirk growing on his face. We had to go as soon as possible. I'm starting to see a slight glimpse of Loki's plans here. What's his next stop? Kakashi asked worriedly, wiping the blood from his masked face. Is he going to leave for another realm again? No, Sasuke scratched his head in frustration. From what I can tell, he's planning to stay on Earth for a while. The Tesseract is in his possession though. We can't let that happen. Naruto frowned. Remember the shitstorm he caused in Vanaheim? Sakura frowned. I have one question, how will we get there when we have no clue what or where anything is? Sasuke adopted a thinking pose before turning to the pinkhead of the group. We'll figure it out, somehow. Just pull up there, it says that they have gas. Kakashi called, pointing to the roadside station. Sasuke turned the wheel, his Sharingan eyes shimmering. You know Sasuke, for someone who's never driven a vehicle, you're doing well. To think that all of these people do this. Sasuke scowled, foot fluctuating on the acceleration pedal. I can't believe that people go this fast. Naruto and Sakura frowned, locking their eyes with the speedometer only to find that Sasuke was speeding between 35 and 45 miles per hour in a 70 mile per hour zone. If the signs were of any evidence, of course. The two in the backseat shared a shrug, leaning into the seat in silence, apart from Sasuke's growling and Kakashi's fingers flipping through pages of his orange little book. The Uchiha was hunched against the steering wheel, his eyes shooting back and forth across the highway. Soon enough, he came close to the entrance of the gas station. He tentatively turned the wheel, completely unaware of the curb. The effect was immediate. Sakura shot from her seat and collided with Naruto as he crashed into the car door. Kakashi thankfully channeled chakra into his seat, keeping him where he sat, saving Sasuke the embarrassment. Naruto? Sakura's voice was dark with rage. Get your face out from between my boobs. Sasuke pressed his foot on the brake, shooting Sakura forward, forcing her elbow into the gearshift, forcing the car into park. She wasn't the only one affected. Naruto shot ahead, smashing his face into Sasuke's headrest, breaking his nose. Sasuke's jaw hung loose at what had just happened. His eyes trailed to his former sensei and his two former teammates with an intense confusion. Why aren't they using chakra to stay in the seats? Sakura, can you please get off the stick? Sasuke asked. I need to get to the gas pumps. As carefully as possible, the four lost shinobi sauntered over to the first empty gas pump they found. The four exited the vehicle like a gang taking over an establishment. Kakashi eyed the area with his Sharingan and sighed in relief. They weren't followed. Sasuke? Naruto's voice came out. What in the world are you doing? I'm trying to pry the damn thing open. Sasuke growled, sticking his kunai knife into the edges of the panel. It was obvious that this panel had to be opened to fill the car with gas. At least that much the foreigners could discern. Rummaging against the locks, he finally snapped the locks open, swinging the panel free. Sasuke smirked softly, tossing the kunai back to Naruto, whom of which caught it with an awestruck expression. Well, I guess all we have to do is put the nozzle in and squeeze. Naruto piped, crossing his arms over his chest. With a quick motion, the Uchiha moved quick, shoving the nozzle into the gas tank. Sasuke looked confused. I opened the damn thing and put the nozzle in, but why is the tank not filling? Maybe they don't have gas? Naruto wondered. Or maybe you didn't pay. The four shinobi looked up with knives and sword drawn in an instant. You again. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Hold on, our first confrontation was a bit my fault. Nick Fury sighed, raising his hands to show he was unarmed. I'd like to get introduced properly. Why should we trust you? Sasuke asked warily. We know you and your forces are probably in the desert as we speak. Put the knife down, sir. A woman ordered from behind. Kakashi nearly shuddered at the ice-cold touch of a pistol's barrel. Slowly but surely, his two black eyes transformed into that of the Mangekyo. Sakura's diamond seal spread in all directions, increasing her power levels to almost double. The Hitaki waited patiently for the last two members of Team 7 to get ready to bail. But if fate would have it, that just wouldn't be so. A rumble, greater than anything anyone had ever heard before, echoed from the empty stomach of none other than Naruto Uzumaki. Sharingan disappearing, he deadpanned when he realized just how ridiculous the four of them seemed. There was a near-silent snicker that could only mean that the one-eyed man came to the same embarrassing conclusion. The gun barrel lowered from the Hitaki's head, clicking softly. A few seconds later, the eye-patched man lowered his. If we're gonna introduce ourselves. Naruto spoke up, looking between his teammates with a sheepish look on his face. Can we do it over dinner? Kakashi watched the man with a wary eye. Dinner? After the insanity of tonight's events, dinner is the most reasonable thing I've heard today. Yes, sir? The voice asked again. Kakashi didn't know if it was safe or not to turn and face her. Dinner? Of course. The man laughed. He quickly slipped his cig into its holster. The two boys of the group visibly relaxed, turning to the silver-haired man. I am Director Nick Fury. May I know your names? Naruto sagged grumpily, a scowl etched across his features. He crossed his arms over his chest in embarrassment as their laughter consumed him. It was an innocent question that was blown out of proportion. What the hell was wrong with wearing orange? Good luck trying to get him to change. Sakura laughed through teary eyes. Naruto has worn orange for as long as we can remember. I'm certain he had extra pairs somewhere. I promise that I don't. Naruto finally said. I didn't know it was a crime to wear orange. It is when we're supposed to assassins. Sasuke shook his head. Director, I feel your terms are just. Naruto shook his head, turning to Cyclops of a man. Sasuke lowered his fork and ran a hand through his jet black hair. Kakashi, I'm down to help them. Loki has information we need. Oh? Nick Fury asked, bringing his fork to his mouth. Do tell. He noticed a sudden spike of pressure coming from the four and immediately decided to salvage the situation. If you want, we'll tell, someday if we're given what we need. Kakashi added. We don't trust or truly know either of you, but we're willing to come to an agreement. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Then we can get started. Nick rose to his feet, popping his neck. Agent Hill, get them up to speed. We'll be meeting on the helicarrier. Understood, Director. The agent nodded softly as the man left a Benjamin on the table. Naruto raised an eyebrow, clearly confused by all of this. From what I was told, you four have already encountered Loki before. Encountered is putting it lightly. Sasuke frowned. He tried taking over one of our minds with the scepter. The group pulled up to an unmarked airport filled with men and women armed to the teeth. Eyes watched through the night. Naruto picked out the silhouettes of dogs and hidden men on the rooftops. They had rifles in their arms with scopes attached. As badly as he wanted to start asking questions, he knew he'd probably get no answers. The guards and the men dressed in suits had an aura of secrecy about them. Sasuke, Naruto whispered. The guys on the roof are aiming their rifles at us. I know, Sasuke whispered back. They're clearly watching us to make sure we don't step out of line. And if we do? Naruto asked with a frown. Sasuke's eyes trailed to the Chikuto katana strapped to his back. Naruto's brow raised but immediately fell as a look of understanding had taken form. The Uzumaki nodded in response, knowing full well what happened in the last realm they journeyed to. Not all the realms were as welcoming as Vanaheim. Thankfully, Kakashi's Kamui had a link of sorts to the Tesseract's transportation abilities, allowing Team 7 to pursue Loki across 4 of the apparent 9 realms. One of the realms was reminiscent of a graveyard, but instead of gravestones and corpses, they saw nothing but burning husks of what seemed like gigantic ships. That was the first realm that they'd encountered Loki. He was there looking for something. What, they didn't know. That was some time before he gained that blasted scepter of his. Naruto felt his brows furrow. I wonder where he got that scepter. There's only one person I would assume. Kurama's voice echoed. Thanos, Thanos. The two clenched their fists, knowing full well that capturing and subduing Loki was only one part of the mission. Defeating Thanos and keeping Earth safe from the powers beyond at bay was the ultimate goal. Naruto took a deep breath, watching the gunmen patrol the unmarked airfield, with a few airmen waving glowing sticks in different directions. Naruto assumed signals for the incoming aircraft. The last time he'd seen such creations, he and Sasuke killed a demon. The blasted land of the sky and their aerial warfare was something he wasn't prepared for at the time. He frowned. Now Naruto was beyond confused. His blue eyes turned to Kakashi and to Sasuke and even to Sakura, gauging their strengths and powers. From what he could tell, the powers of the Rikudo Sennin was still within him and Sasuke. Half-minded, he raised his right hand, finding that the golden circle in the center of his palm hadn't lost its shine. Sasuke's left palm seemed to wither underneath a translucent shroud of darkness. Now that the Uzumaki was thinking on it, the Uchiha's lightning was still black when they attacked Loki back at the shield facility. Naruto took another breath, following his team as close as he could, avoiding the looks and glares of the various gunmen posted along the path. Come, I'll debrief you on the Harrier. Agent Hill said over the roar of the engines. Hey, Sasuke. Naruto thought. What? Sasuke's reply was short. Naruto quickly buckled and got situated into the Harrier jet. Why don't we just use the Susanoo to get to the heli-carrier? I mean, I don't need one. I can easily fly there myself. We shouldn't show off our powers just yet, Dobi. Sasuke reprimanded. We don't need a replay of Utenheim. You can say that again. Naruto deflated, completely ignoring everything Agent Hill was saying. How will we go about apprehending Loki? We'll do it like a team. Sasuke frowned. Just, this time, don't fuck up. And don't do something as stupid as the reverse harem jutsu. I swear to all the gods, I'll murder you. Hey, Naruto glared at the Uchiha. In my defense, I actually landed a hit. Sasuke deadpanned. It's because the attack was so stupid it left Kagaya in a stupidity-induced stupor. Still doesn't mean I didn't land a hit. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest. Who was it that took forever to land a hit? Why you? Sasuke narrowed his eyes, Sharingan and Rinnegan spinning violently. When we get out of this damn thing, we're gonna have a quick chat. Be glad that you can heal any and all wounds. You're gonna need it when I'm done with you. Your threats land on deaf ears, Sasuke. Naruto stuck his tongue out. You're gonna need me to defeat Loki in the end. Sasuke shook his head in frustration, barely able to keep his sigh from escaping. Can't you see it, Naruto? These people fear us. I can see it in their eyes and I'm certain you can sense it. Of course they fear us. Naruto frowned. We fucking came out of nowhere. I can't help but feel that there's an ulterior motive. I agree. Sasuke narrowed his eyes towards Agent Maria and the shield emblems on her shoulders. When we arrive at the helicarrier, make shadow clones and have them sneak about the ship, alright? We're gonna need to figure out what these people are doing. With that, the two cut off their mental link and turned towards the other two shinobi. Sakura seemed calm, judging by her appearance, but Naruto and Sasuke could see that she was in dire need of some rest. Sasuke watched Naruto's appearance soften when Sakura released a powerful yawn. Who knew how exhausted she was? It was surprising to the two at how well she was holding herself despite everything that has happened. It didn't matter that she too was trained by a Sannin. The fact that she managed to stay alive this long, Sasuke and Naruto felt more respect for the pinkhead. The Harrier jet continued its steady flight, despite the turbulence. It was no matter, they were on their way towards the supposed helicarrier. Whatever this was, Naruto was certain they were in over their heads, and it was so obvious that even he could see it. With all they did in Vanaheim and Utenheim, this took the cake. I wonder, who's the babe? Naruto asked looking from the window. She's beautiful. Agent Natasha Romanov, your new comrade. Agent Hill answered. The other two, well, let's just say you'll all be acquainted soon enough. Naruto and Sasuke shared a shrug and turned their sights to the one female of their group. Sakura's eyes were planted on the tall blonde man with broad shoulders. Her eyes bore a bashful expression with cheeks as pink as her own head of hair. Emerald eyes followed his figure as he waltzed across the flight deck. But once he glanced up, the girl exploded with an embarrassed rage and turned back around, cheeks blaring hot. Once more, Naruto and Sasuke shared a confused look, shrugging it off as nothing. He didn't look like much. The rakeage eye was twice as large as him. The two rose from their seats and headed from the mess hall, leaving Kakashi to talk with Agent Hill and Sakura to mumble incoherently with herself. Those two needed some rest, but Naruto and Sasuke needed a moment to actually train and kick each other's asses for once. Alright, Team 7. Director Fury's voice appeared. Come with me, it's about time we give you four a full debrief of our situation. Unintentional, a growl escaped Naruto's mouth as he rubbed the back of his head. Sasuke crossed his arms over his chest and clearly felt the same way. They wanted to spar for at least a few minutes. Clearly this was going to take a while. Agent Maria Hill rose from her seat across Kakashi with the silver-haired Jonin and the resident Pinkhead in tow. The whiskered blonde could see the look spread across the various crew members of the helicarrier. Naruto frowned. He knew they looked different. Well, Kakashi and Sakura more than anyone, but their looks were beginning to borderline on the shit he got as a child. What the hell is wrong with these people? Naruto asked. Don't ask me. Sasuke's reply was curt. But if I try to kill one, don't stop me. Their glares and distrusting looks are beginning to piss me off. Naruto snickered softly. Of course they would. Naruto, I suggest you remember why we're here. Sasuke frowned, punching Naruto's arm. These people are just a means to an end. We need Loki and the scepter and the Tesseract. Remember why we're here. I don't want to be stuck in this world longer than a week. Ma, Naruto replied. Chill out for once, Sasuke. I would if we had the time to. Sasuke growled. Now clearly isn't the time. If you hadn't noticed, an alien with an army at his back wants to conquer our world. Despite this not being our time period, we still have an obligation. Yes, I know. Naruto rolled his eyes. Shut up, Sasuke, ha ha. I'm just saying. The Uchiha narrowed his eyes. I wouldn't be so quick to trust these people. Hell, even Sakura is being cautious. She's worn out though, terrible example Sasuke. Naruto cheekily replied. Sasuke activated his Sharingan. I hate you. Ah, Romanov. Good to see you managed to get the big guy. Agent Hill smirked. I did. Natasha smiled and turned to the four foreigners. Who in their right minds invited children? Children? Naruto asked with a raised brow. I'll have you know. Naruto, shut the hell up. Sakura whispered with a glare. Just deal with it for now before you embarrass all of us. Agent Romanov. Another voice appeared. He was confused and a bit flustered with all the works. Sakura immediately went frozen, stiffening as if she were in a genjutsu. The Uchiha of the group shook his head and pulled her along, bringing her with him to follow Agent Hill and Kakashi. Naruto stayed glaring at the red-headed woman. His blue eyes trailed over her shapely curves before deciding to land on her eyes. Immediately, his blue orbs exploded with fire and he nearly felt the urge to reveal his powers right then and there. But there was that nagging inner voice that called him a moron and immediately shut his chakra. Natasha flashed the whiskered blonde a smirk and even went as far as to ruffle his hair. The effects were exactly what she wanted. Naruto's cheeks went hot and his glare never once left his face, if not getting worse. All it did though was add on to Natasha's glee. She turned walking ahead of him, hips swaying like she'd won something, leaving Naruto in a nose-blood-induced stupor. She was a woman, that much couldn't be denied. Damn it, Kurama, I wanted to show off. Naruto complained. I may be young, but I'm a lot stronger than your average teen, hell adult. Think I don't know that? Kurama asked with a growl. The rest of us just feel like it would be a better idea if your powers are kept hidden until the time is absolutely right. Oh right, the rest of the Biju are within me. Naruto frowned softly. How are all of you doing so far? Meh. The other 8 Biju answered in an indifferent unison. It could be better. Well, Naruto. Pay attention. You're about to crash into a wall. Sasuke's growl appeared. Idiot, I've saved your ass so many times, what would you do? Hey, Teme, what happened in Western Vanaheim and Utenheim don't count. Naruto interrupted. And saving my ass from a wall? The group entered a large room with an equally large round table with a collection of seats. The people present quickly situated themselves with a few immediately reaching for the cups and jug of water sitting in the center of the table. Naruto's eyes trailed left and right, waiting for Sasuke to continue his rather boring rant. Little did the Uzumaki realize, he was blocking out all sound, letting his mind run silent. He could tell that Director Fury was talking about something, but Naruto clearly couldn't hear. Soon enough, the 9 Biju were beginning to be more interesting than silence itself. I know the lady is hot, but shit, pay attention at least. Naruto looked away from his 9 inner demons and stared at the raven-haired Uchiha sitting in a cushioned seat with his arms crossed over his chest. Do you know what's going on? A powerful mental sigh echoed throughout the empty caverns of his mindscape. Within seconds, information flowed into his head, via Sasuke's mental link that was formed just shortly after they landed in Utenheim a month ago. Steve Rogers was a captain and super soldier of the U.S. Army during a conflict called World War II. Genetically modified and enhanced, he was stronger and faster than the average human. Apparently, he was frozen in ice for 70 years or so. Naruto gagged at the thought of Sakura getting attracted to such an old man. Then his eyes laid on Natasha Romanov, agent of the government agency called SHIELD. She was an accomplished assassin and very skilled with infiltration. Apparently a former Russian spy and a great hand-to-hand fighter. Naruto smirked. He was going to kick her ass, even without Kurama. Thank Kami for Kakashi's and Sasuke's genjutsu. These people were spilling information at such a rate. The 4 foreigners were beginning to feel like they've always been on this planet for a lifetime. But time was short and Loki was on the move. But back to business. Nick Fury's voice echoed. The entire group seemed unaffected by the genjutsu and continued on as if nothing had happened. We've received reliable intel that Loki has arrived in Stuttgart, Germany, in search of something. Kakashi, do you happen to have any ideas of what it might be? Sadly, I do not. Kakashi frowned. But whatever it is, we need to stop Loki and take the Tesseract from his possession. Agreed. Nick nodded at the Cap. Cap, you think you can head back into Germany? Hey, remember why we're helping. Sasuke suddenly glared, eyes slowly phasing into the Sharingan. We don't work for you, but we're working with you. Sasuke. Kakashi narrowed his eyes. Sasuke's right. Naruto shook his head. Believe me, I feel for you all, but we have our own mission. I'll be glad to help, but it'll be best that you don't get in our way. You guys can have Loki once we're done with him, but you're not taking the Tesseract. Sasuke glared. Come on, we have a frost giant to take care of. Kurama. Naruto frowned. How do you feel about all of this? What can I say? Kurama shook his head. I'd prefer it if we had a better understanding of this time period. Can't have everything, I suppose. Naruto crossed his arms as he stared off into the great blue expanse of cloud and sky. When we get Loki, when this terrible chase finally comes to an end, what's in it for us afterwards? That's beyond me at this point. Kurama sighed. We could leave all of that up for a different date. As of now we have the eyes of SHIELD planted upon us. One wrong move and they might try something. Containment? Naruto asked. Yes, Kurama responded. Or on the flip side of the coin, we might gain some allies. They weren't as terrified as I thought they would be when we zapped into their time. We're clearly not the first foreigners that have appeared. Naruto shrugged. They're obviously still confused of our affiliation. My, Naruto. Learning big words. Kurama snickered. But yes, they are. I'm glad someone in this bunch of shinobi is thinking about endgame. Sasuke cares too much about the mission. Kakashi and Sakura seem almost indifferent about everything, a great steaming pile of disappointment if I may say so myself. I'm beginning to wonder what Sasuke will do once we finish our work here. Naruto's eyes trailed off towards the setting sun. We're already gearing up to head out to this Stuttgart place, and Sasuke hasn't once shared his plan with the SHIELD people. And yet he shared it with you. Kurama yawned. Mind being a hero and spreading the word? I still don't trust that Uchiha. And I doubt you ever will. Naruto chided. You know how to hold serious grudges. Hey, I got over mine with you. The great nine-tailed fox yelled in defense. "Ah, it's because of my lovable personality, isn't it?" Naruto said without breaking the smile spread across his face. "Keep that up and I just might start hating you again." Kurama deadpanned. "Without the cage, there's nothing from stopping me." "It's cute that you're thinking of that." Naruto smirked. "Oh well, it seems the captain is on his way." Kurama shut the conversation short. Naruto?" Steve asked. "That's your name, right? Hope I didn't butcher the pronunciation." "Nah." Naruto's eyes trailed to see the man already dressed in his outfit, a red, white and blue version of Lee and Guy's green leotards. "Not as bad as the director's first try, Captain. What can I do you for? I was curious of you and your team." The two turned their heads to see Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke talking amongst themselves, probably going over last-minute plans. Director Fury debriefed us of your and your team's arrival and skills. "While ability is great, I prefer to know intention. Willingness to help can only go so far." "I agree, Captain." Naruto nodded, blue eyes trailing out to the sea of clouds. "We have a mission: protect Earth. While some on my team are more than willing to do anything they can to get the mission done, I am intending to do this without unnecessary casualties." "Disagreements in your team?" Steve asked confused, walking up next to the blonde teen. "Minor disputes at most really." Naruto frowned. "We've chased Loki for quite a long while now and it's become monotonous. At this point, the four of us are weary and want to rest for once." "Now you're really pulling big words out of your ass." Kurama bellowed with laughter. Naruto ignored him and continued. "I want this done and over with. Loki can go wherever any of you intend, but the Tesseract is what we're after." "What is your intention?" The captain looked at the boy. "I've seen what the Tesseract can do in the wrong hands. What makes you believe you're the ones to use it?" "I don't think we can use it," Naruto responded. "All I know is that we have to use it. Its power is unmatched and is beyond comprehension. For me at least. There are some things that even my squad and I can't do with our abilities." "Oh well, I suppose. And you think the Tesseract can do what you four can't?" Steve inquired. "After the events of these last few months, I feel like trusting my sensei." "All right." A comfortable silence fell between the two. "Naruto, I imagine that you're prepared to apprehend Loki, eh?" 2 hours later, Naruto stared at his fellow blonde, subconsciously glaring at the epitome of the American ideal. He was not mad, far from it. If anything, he was brimming with confusion. In a way, the enigma that is the captain was a welcome distraction from Sasuke's internal ramblings, that the Uchiha never took the time to block himself out. With a sigh escaping his lips, his thoughts turned to the great fox within his gut. "Don't you find it strange, Kurama?" Naruto asked. "What do you mean?" "Steve, the captain." Kurama and Naruto stared at the super soldier before them. "He holds no evil in his heart, no hate. It's unbelievable. For a human, biologically enhanced or not, every human has darkness." Kurama examined the captain from afar. "Hell, even you have a small amount left, runt." "I won't deny that either." Naruto watched Steve with a wary eye. "It's mind-boggling that someone could be so pure. I don't trust a man without a dark side." Kurama glared. "Such men don't exist, especially among humans. Personally, I think he could be the ally we've been searching for." Naruto smirked. "Now what makes you say that?" Kurama wondered. "Did you not hear me say, I don't trust a man without a dark side?" "Blah, blah, blah, paranoia." Naruto chided. "A man with no darkness, with no hate, is just the man we need on our side. A man like that could be changed the instant he realizes that humanity is not pretty." Kurama scolded. "Humans still disgust me, but they are tolerable." "Oh Kurama." Naruto shook his head. "Steve could prove to be a valuable ally. What about Thor?" "He's not human. Close enough. Nowhere near close enough." "What? How is he not close enough to being human?" "Loving Earth because of one hot piece of ass isn't the same as loving Earth because it's your home," Kurama corrected. "Also, he's Asgardian, not human." "Oh, same fucking difference." Naruto rolled his eyes. "Remember when we first ran into him? Sasuke and Thor tried electrocuting one another. Now that little Uchiha brat, I enjoyed watching his ass get handed to him." Kurama laughed heartily. "You two know I can hear you?" Sasuke groaned. "And how was I supposed to know that Thor used lightning? Maybe you shouldn't think with your fists and think with your mind like you used to, brat." Kurama chided. "I'm still surprised that the Asgardian didn't kill us right then and there." If you hadn't noticed, these extraplanetary beings are a lot stronger than us and can take a lot more damage than we can. Thor's armor ate my Rasengan. Naruto frowned. Sure, it was a base Rasengan, but even then, I've never seen such a thing. He's Asgardian. There's a reason they were worshipped as gods. Kurama frowned. But I'm certain it has to do with the fall of Kaguya and her galactic holdings. Asgardians must have known about chakra and her powers and created armor to withstand it, or maybe even found ways to counter it. Probably. Sasuke added. How long was her golden age, again? 400 years? 500 years? A millennium? That's more than enough time to learn about her. It was a long time. Kurama frowned. Thanks to the sage. Everything she created fell to shambles, as I'm certain we all know by now. With all of her territories gone, what remains is keeping Thanos, Galactus and all other terrible forms of evil from Kaguya's last bastion. Home. We can't stay at the home front forever. Eventually we'll need to make a strike against Thanos and all these other species who threaten us. We will, in due time, Sasuke. Kurama sighed. But first, how will we travel across the realms if we don't have spaceships? As far as the humans are concerned, aliens don't exist. So that's why we need the Tesseract. Sasuke nodded after a few minutes of silence. It is more than a weapon, it's a teleportation device, correct? I could see some kind of power radiating from Loki's scepter that matched the beam of energy in the containment field. I assume it was from the Tesseract. Kaguya absorbed some of its power and in turn, the genes mutated to become the Kamui for the Sharingan. Sasuke and Naruto soaked the information. Kakashi's Kamui is now fully realized, but even then, it is not as strong as the Tesseract. While it takes the user to different dimensions, the Tesseract can take armies. Imagine the destruction it would cause in the wrong hands. Thanos could land a fleet anywhere at any time. Naruto glared. Exactly. Now, Sasuke, as much as I hate you, I have some things to discuss with you in private. And with that, the conversation was cut. Naruto's eyes trailed left and right, doing his best to ignore Sasuke's nods and silent responses. Crossing his arms over his chest, the Uzumaki leaned into his seat, pulling at his orange sleeves to cover the goosebumps on his arms. The air conditioning within the flying box was a little too strong. Naruto. Kakashi's voice echoed. Do you know the plan? Eh? He looked at the Jonin with a confused look. Of course I do. No shadow clones, he said sternly. And especially no destructive ninjutsu. From what the director has told me, Stuttgart is a large city, home to over 600,000 men and women. That means, this could be extremely dangerous if we use any of our ninjutsu, especially the Rasengan or Chidori. I won't use my earth techniques and Sakura will do her best to curb her strength just enough to not tear the ground apart. Understood. Naruto nodded his head. So I assume going into Biju mode isn't a good idea either? I wouldn't be against it, but imagine how these people would react when a boy covered in golden fire appears. Kakashi replied. Sage mode it is then. Naruto nodded. Good. Now, just be careful, alright? I'd rather not have any of you hurt today. Kakashi smiled beneath his mask. And with that, he rose from his seat and headed over to Sasuke, telling him the same. Just like Naruto assumed, Sasuke was slightly annoyed at having to play off his abilities again for the sake of possible collateral damage. But without much resistance or complaint, the Uchiha nodded his head, giving Kakashi his same emotionless brooding look of confirmation. Alright, boys and girls. Natasha Romanov's voice echoed with a playful tone. We're here. Cap, the director has given you and Kakashi command of the 3 children. We're not children, Naruto cried back. His response was received with more laughter as the Quinjet began its descent. I hate her. Come on, Naruto. Sasuke growled. Who are we splitting with? A quicker team will be needed to infiltrate and another will meet him outside to apprehend. The captain nodded. Kakashi, what do you propose? Sasuke will come with me. Sakura, you will wait in reserve. Should anyone need healing, you'll come in handy. Kakashi ordered. Naruto, as our strongest and hardest hitter, you'll stay with the captain. No problem. Then, let's go. There's shouting going on. Naruto frowned. People are running now. Kakashi, what is going out there? The captain asked. There are too many civilians here. The man replied through a braking signal. Loki's men are using civilians as human shields. From the building the two watched, a great fight broke out within the auction house. Civilians fumbled over one another, tripping and rolling down short flights of stairs. Their shouts and screams echoed along with the gunshots ringing in the nighttime urban ambiance. Naruto channeled Senjutsu chakra, feeling the nature chakra radiate within his coils. Sasuke did his best within the tight confines of the grand foyer, struggling to not hit civilians in his warpath. Kakashi clashed his blade with a few of Loki's lackeys. Sparks and opponents could be seen, flying across the room and crashing through priceless artifacts and displays. Sasuke ducked, dodging a wide punch from a goon and responded with an attack similar. With a knife wielded, he shoved his blade in hand through the man's chest, killing him and freeing his hostage. The woman took off running, tripping and breaking a heel on her stilettos. The Uchiha, though, sighed a breath of relief and gave a quick salute to the two blondes resting on the rooftop. A few blinks and worried people watching, the civilians were quickly filed away from the scene as the Quinjet hovered above, bullhorns blaring with deafening resonance to shroud the gunfire. Suddenly, a great burly man picked up the black-haired boy and hurled him through a window, shattering the glass. Dangerous fragments flew into the air, cracking and even stabbing a few unlucky civilians who happened to get in the way. Sasuke, though, rolled against the bricks and concrete slabs before finally catching his footing. Reaching for the sword strapped to his back, he froze for a moment of rage. The burly man held his sword, and judging by the bald man's unimpressed look, Sasuke would have to use ninjutsu after all. With a glare, the Uchiha rose to his feet, hair falling to cover the blaring rinnegan he had for a left eye. "Silly boy," the man chided before turning back to fight the silver-haired Jonin battling it out with the small unit of Loki's supporters. "I'll be taking this nice souvenir." Within a blink of an eye, the sword was no longer in his hand. Instead, Sasuke's foot rammed against his chin, breaking his stance. The burly man fell back, stumbling in the weight of his tactical armor and size. As he stumbled, Sasuke rushed forward, grabbing his blade and drawing it from the black lacquered scabbard. Taken by the moment, the Uchiha shot the blade towards the bumbling giant and shoved his indestructible blade through the man's back, spraying blood onto the streets. With a quick flick of his wrist, he sliced through the man's side, showering the courtyard roundabout with his intestines. Civilians had cleared completely, bringing a sigh of relief from the shinobi and the captain. The fight had spread to the public view, there was no use in hiding anymore. Without command or request, Naruto and Steve jumped from the building, zipping through alleyways and fire escapes just as they landed safe and sound on the concrete streets. Avoiding racing cars and bullets rushing through the street, the two finally arrived to assist their allies. Captain's shield shot forward, whipping past the two young shinobi, bashing against a trio of Loki's goons. Each crack and impact sounded like a nightmare, but what got the two off guard, the shield returned and blocked a flurry of gunshots from a gunman across the street. Before the two boys could make another attack, the god they were after burst into the scene, spinning and flying through a whirlwind of glass. Turning their heads to the auction house, corpses and unconscious goons were lying about. Unfortunately, a handful escaped the scene, including the SHIELD agent Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. The masked shinobi looked livid and yanked an arrow from his shoulder, slightly annoyed with how his Mangekyo pains had returned. "Loki, stand down," Natasha's voice echoed through the nighttime scene. As if the scene couldn't grow any more crowded, a low rumble was heard shaking the scene. Natasha's voice was replaced with that of a screeching, shouting voice to the rhythm of guitars and drums. Naruto's eyebrow rose in confusion and stayed on guard. Of course he'd heard music, he'd just never heard of music such as this. It was intriguing, but across the way, rushing in from the skies themselves, a man in red and orange tinge armor was incoming fast with a trail of fire and smoke coming from his hands and feet, leaving a great line in his wake. When he landed, bricks and the concrete cracked beneath his weight. Holding his hand out, a glowing circle appeared, radiating with energy. "Hey there, Cap?" The Iron Man looked at the scene before him. "What's up with the high school field trip?" "Mr. Stark, I'll explain on the Quinjet." "Who the hell are you?" Naruto looked at the bearded man dressed in his great suit of armor. "Did you not hear my introduction?" Tony looked at the blonde with a raised brow. "I'm Tony Stark, kid." His eye twitched at the slight. "I'm not a kid. For your information, I can more than likely kick your ass 7 ways to Sunday." "Did you hear that, Cap?" Tony asked with a laugh escaping his lips. Natasha, did you catch that too? The little runt said he could kick my ass. Ah, Nat chided. Don't make him angry, the little boy has fire in him. Sakura and Kakashi stifled their laughs, but the curled eyelids was enough indication for the blonde. Hell, even Sasuke had a ghost of a smile grace his ever-brooding face. Turning his eyes along the crowd, his sapphire irides landed on the god covered in dark calligraphy, thanks to the silver-haired Jonin of Team 7. Naruto shook his head, giving the adults seated and standing looks of disgust. But there was a lingering worry that seemed to resonate among those present. As silence fell among the uncertain passengers of the Quinjet, lightning and thunder boomed. From the cockpit, Naruto could spy forks of lightning snaking across the clouds, dancing and branching off in all directions. The Uzumaki turned to the god wrapped in fuinjutsu, finding his appearance laughable. Scared of some lightning? Steve asked incredulously. I'm not overly fond of what usually follows. Loki's response was cryptic to the super soldier. Naruto smirked. He means his step-brother, Thor. If you think the blonde idiot over there is the only blonde idiot ruining my life, think again, soldier. Loki spat with a shit-eating grin. Suddenly, a great and heavy shudder rocked the craft, breaking their positons and stances. Tony scrambled for his helmet and Steve fumbled for his shield. While those of S.H.I.E.L.D. prepped for an assault, Team 7 stayed silent and awaited the new arrival. Kakashi, Naruto. Steve called, gripping the straps of his shield. Is he a friendly? Doesn't matter. Tony replied, helmet sealing shut. If Thor kills or releases Loki, the Tesseract is as good as gone. Oh please. Let's not get dramatic here. Naruto said, raising his hands. Tony walked up to a control panel, angrily smashing the cargo hold controls. The instant the cargo hold had extended, an imposing, incredibly muscled blonde landed upon the outstretched door. His armor lacked steel sleeves and waving in his wake, a great crimson cape. What really caught the metal man and the super soldier unawares, the newcomer was wielding a great hammer. Tony immediately reacted, rushing up to the great Asgardian in a vain attempt to stop him. Before he could make a lasting impression, Thor's hammer rammed into the Stark's chest, sending him into the pilot seats behind him. As quickly as he could, he grabbed Loki from his seat, ripping the seat belts and even removed the frost giant from Kakashi's fuinjutsu, really reminding Team 7 of the Asgardian geniuses. Naruto tried to call out to his fellow blonde, but Thor had other plans, it would seem. Difficult as it was to believe, Tony stood from his defeated stance against the flight controls and stomped up to the open cargo hold. Hey, Stark, Naruto called. Thor is an ally. I don't care. He responded indignantly. Stay out of this, kid. Tony. It was Steve's turn to speak. Do you have a plan of attack? Iron Man stopped for a moment, even giving himself a second to half-turn his head, barely facing the captain. I do. Attack. Firing off his boots and hands, the man took off into the cloudy night, rushing towards wherever the two decided to run. Once he was gone, Steve rushed over to the emergency parachutes, strapping the laces around his chest and underarm. Giving a quick look over at Team 7's direction, he jumped off the plane, making sure to catch up to his rather excited colleague, making sure the Iron Man didn't do anything stupid. Naruto looked to Sasuke and shook his head. Hey Naruto, a kid shouldn't be rushing into a fight between a god and machine. Natasha called. Channeling chakra, his body exploded in golden flame, revealing the black seals and glowing gold. I'm more than just a kid. Black Gudadama appeared, 6 in total. He looked to Sasuke and without another word, he levitated off through the open cargo doors. Feeling the rain beat against his face at over 200 miles per hour, he sent a great wave of chakra covering the great forest and mountains surrounding Stuttgart. Thor and Loki had to be somewhere nearby. It didn't take more than a few seconds for him to realize their position. Sadly, Tony Stark was on his way and he was closing distance faster than he would like. Channeling chakra throughout his pores once again, he shot forward with a slight afterimage of gold in his wake. Winds and lightning flashed and tossed him about, leaving him in a strange wobbly flight pattern. He could see the fire trail the Iron Man armor left behind. Just before he could reach him, the Stark plowed against Thor's unprepared flank, hurling the blonde across the forest, bashing and thrashing through nature. Dirt, trees and rocks were overturned and obliterated in the impact. Does mother know you weareth her drapes? Naruto could faintly hear the Stark say. Before the jab competition could continue, Naruto landed, purposely kicking up dirt and even a fallen tree trunk in an attempt to get their attention. Both warriors stopped their assaults and fell to opposite ends of the clearing. Thor fell to Naruto's far right with Tony on Naruto's far left, neither stopped glaring. "Stop this now," Naruto roared. "Thor, Stark, this is what Loki wants." The Asgardian looked at the glowing blonde with a strange look. "Naruto? Hello, Thor." Naruto smiled. "Given the circumstances, it's unfortunate that we had to meet again like this." "You know him?" The Iron Man helmet opened. "What is going on here? I am intending to put an end to Loki's schemes," Thor proclaimed, spinning Mjolnir. The Uzumaki frowned, crossing his arms over his chest. "I understand that, so are we, remember?" "All right," Tony glared, allowing his helmet to shut once again. "You want to help, then put the hammer down." Naruto's eyes went wide. "That's not a good idea." The Asgardian had never looked so offended before this moment. Naruto backed away, watching lightning build on the head of Mjolnir. Tony took a stance with his hands held out, energy building in his palms. Almost as if the show couldn't get any more crowded, a great purple monstrosity appeared, shaking and indenting the scenery. Slowly but surely the behemoth of energy began to dissipate into the air, evaporating into thin air. In its wake was Uchiha Sasuke, the creepy emo kid in Tony's eyes. When the Uchiha landed as silently as Naruto did, he held out his hand, channeling chakra to his palm. Judging by the frustrated look in Thor's eyes, Tony assumed there was something that he was missing. Electricity and lightning rushed from Mjolnir into Sasuke's outstretched palm. Thanks to his lightning affinity, the element had no effect on him and in a way, he was a conduit of power, sending it back to the ground. Thor growled, running his eyes to both shinobi and for a moment contemplated his options. He found the two of them already and nearly lost, but now, this newcomer, the Metal Man, he was a wild card. Thor frowned. Sheathing his hammer against his waist, he crossed his arms over his chest, giving the glowing boy a bored look. "What is your plan?" "New York City." Naruto paced back and forth on the deck. His clothing blew in the whipping winds. Blue eyes watched the clouds billow and flow against the horizon, glowing a soft yet brightening gold. Despite all that had happened the night before, the Uzumaki was still nervous and confused. All they had done, kept them stuck under the Eye of Shield. Sasuke voiced his obvious distaste for it, finding it all to be menial and a terrible waste of time. Kakashi seemed to be at home with the clandestine agents and fighters. He was commonly seen talking with Agent Maria Hill and director Nick Fury. Just mere hours after they had apprehended Loki, a strike team arrived, assaulting the helicarrier. They were armed to the teeth, prepared to fight an army by the looks of things. Of course, they were no challenge for the young shinobi on board, but their bullets were invisible to the naked eye. Only those blessed with the Sharingan and Naruto were able to dodge the speeding projectiles. Everyone else not so lucky didn't fare too well. While a few crewmen and agents were gunned down, Naruto and Sasuke viciously took down the strike teams that wandered too close to the command center. When the aerial skirmish was all said and done, Sakura, of course, was found in the medical bay, using her skills as best as she could. While she didn't have much understanding what she was dealing with, she healed all she could. He clenched his jaw, remembering the explosions and the gunfire. In the chaos of it all, it caused the brilliant Dr. Banner to turn into the gigantic monstrosity known as the Hulk. As it was, they were down 2 members. Thor, whom of which, they had just finally reconnected with, had disappeared during the attack, and the Hulk had fallen from the sky, disappearing beneath the clouds. Now, Steve, Natasha, Tony and Team 7 were all that remained on the helicarrier. Naruto remembered the director's words, the sad story of Agent Coulson and his noble sacrifice. Thankfully, he was being tended to by Sakura. No wound would stay open with the Haruno around, after all. Sasuke of course looked enraged, disgusted even, by the attack. He seemed so extremely affected that even Naruto felt the Uchiha was overreacting. As he continued thinking, the frown he wore deepened into his whiskered face. Sasuke had grown angrier, if not more hateful than before. His Sharingan and Rinne's Sharingan always active, watching for possible attacks and more enemies to reveal themselves. Hell, the Uchiha was as bad, if not worse, when Loki revealed that an alien army was coming for Earth. Had he become so dedicated to the job, the mission, that he would forego his own happiness? I wouldn't think of something so wonderful. Kurama droned. As great as it would be to have a selfless Uchiha, I doubt such a thing would come from that brat. Kurama. Sasuke's growl came. I'm not as selfish as you think. Rolling his eyes, the Uzumaki stared off into the rays of golden sunlight. Enough, you two. This is beginning to get annoying. I can't think to myself without one of you running your mouths and driving a proverbial ice pick into my head. Didn't know you knew what a lobotomy was. Kurama chuckled. Shut the hell up, Baka Kitsune. Naruto hissed. Naruto. Well, I have someone to talk to. Play nice, why don't you? The boy in question turned on his heels. Captain, what's up? How are you feeling? The man asked. We're going into New York to fight off an alien invasion. There's got to be at least something in that statement that throws you off. I know a thing or two about alien invasions. Sapphire eyes trailed from the super soldier. I've been through the cosmos, sort of, and I've seen some things I never would have thought existed. This just takes the cake. I thought you said you know about alien invasions. Steve raised a brow. Shrugging, the blonde stared at the man. I know it, because technically, my team and I were the alien invaders. Never have we actually experienced an invasion of the level Loki described. We've never really fought an alien invasion, more like, fought off raiders and bandits really. Thor needed help cleaning up some planets and we happened to come along. Got a good understanding of what kind of world we were thrown into, and to be honest, this is the most normal thing we know. What do you mean? Steve crossed his arms. Well, you were subjected to a super soldier serum to fight in the Second World War, right? Naruto asked. I read your dossier. My team and I were combatants of our own world war, the Fourth Great War, actually. Thousands died every day and by the end, millions. The continent was tearing itself apart because of the power we awakened, one we thought was divine, only to learn it was something we simply didn't understand. In a way, we were raised for war. Naruto chuckled. I can't believe I'm saying this, but war and battle is all we know. Besides, we've been traveling for a long time, fighting small battles and skirmishes on different planets. But this is, please don't think low of me, the best way we can stretch our legs and flex our muscles. And if what Loki said is true, this is just one step closer to Thanos himself. The one reason we're even here. I see. Steve stared at the boy. I won't say I don't know what you're feeling. I mean, I too wanted nothing more than to fight in the war, to become something more than what I was. I wanted to do my part and do something, anything at all. None of it sat well for me to sit idle by while good men fought and died for me. In a way, I guess I'm saying, thank you. The captain smiled. Naruto's brow raised for a few moments. Thank you? For what? We didn't do anything great, and if anything, we were caught off guard by Loki's agents. We were too busy arguing with ourselves and let our guard down. Steve smiled. No point in putting yourself down. You and Sasuke were incredible. I haven't seen someone that nimble in a fight before. But anyway, I'm thanking you for being on our side. It's a relief to have someone familiar with the playing field. Come on, Stark said we'll be heading off soon. Hold on. Naruto turned on his heels. Didn't the director say all flights were to be grounded? Do you honestly think that will stop us? Alright, Goldie. Tony tossed Naruto an earpiece. You too, Daria. Sasuke glared at the man, almost crushing the earpiece in his palm. What? Oh, nothing. Tony simply chuckled. You should watch some TV sometime. Stop bullying the little kids and let's get moving, Tony. Natasha walked by, rolling her eyes. We have a city to save. Clint? Right behind you. The man sighed, hobbling along. Between the two spies, Steve stood with his spangle outfit of red, white and blue, almost screaming patriotism. Naruto and Sasuke shared a look, almost bursting into laughter at how tight the outfit looked on the old super soldier. Shrugging though, Naruto checked his shuriken and kunai count, while Sasuke sharpened his sword. Kakashi popped his knuckles and checked continuously, making sure his Sharingan was still active. Beside him, Sakura channeled massive amounts of chakra into her forehead, reforming the diamond. Alright, we ready to go? Naruto asked, sliding his earpiece into place. All channels secured? Tony asked. A series of thumbs were shot up in response. Alright, let's get cracking. Shinobi, follow me. Naruto, Sasuke and Kakashi followed Tony, as his suit began to reform around him, latching and shutting tight. Hissing as it did so but sparked every once in a while. It seemed on the verge of falling apart from the damage it managed to sustain. Taking a deep breath, the Iron Man burst into action, his repulsors sending him through the air like a missile. Naruto followed next, bursting into a beautiful golden flame. His clothes darkened to black and his jumper jacket cleared into yellow with black seals stretching and decorating across his back and arms. Behind him, 9 Gudadama formed. Much to the surprise of the helicarrier's crew and the agents that moved in to apprehend them, Naruto began to levitate, just before speeding off at the same speed as the Iron Man, if not faster. After him, following his trail of gold and Iron Man's trail of smoke, Sasuke and Kakashi jumped from the helicarrier. The black-haired boy fell through the sky, clothes whipping with the powerful winds. His sword was sheathed with his arms spread out. Shutting his eyes, he channeled his sage chakra, exploding with energy. Nick Fury actually looked up from his consoles, feeling the sheer amount of power. One by one, the crew of the helicarrier command center stood from their seats, eyes wide and bodies shaking with fear. Nick's only eye widened, actually surprised for once in his life. Floating before the helicarrier, 2 giant flaming men were seen. Gigantic wings sprang from their backs, with one being purple and the other being a light blue. The 2 giant men leaned forward, leaving flames of blue and purple in their wake. With quick snaps and shifting energy, the giant men took off, blasting wind and energy in every direction, shaking the helicarrier. In the wake of it all, a Quinjet was seen speeding through the sky trying to catch up. The scene was so surprising. Sakura watched the super soldier and the spies shake in their seats. "Holy shit," Natasha said under her breath. "I know," Sakura said, giggling softly. "It was scary seeing it the first time. Now, I'm pretty much used to it. What more are you guys hiding from us?" Natasha asked with a worried tone. Weaving through the clouds, the Quinjet caught up quickly to the flying shinobi and the Iron Man. "This is Black Widow. Does everyone copy?" "Solid copy." Kakashi was the first to respond. "Signal's strong and working well. It's working perfectly for me too." Sasuke's reply was curt. "I can see the coast coming in." Ditto. Naruto's reply was as expected. "I'm sensing a lot of negative energy. It's reminding me of the war. Hopefully we won't have the same bloodbath like the war." Sakura added, "I don't know if I can heal a city's worth of injured." "Tony," Natasha said with an investigative tone. "I'm surprised you're not saying anything about the pair of giant floating men." "Oh, I see them. I'm just trying really hard to ignore it. While I'm not sensing any chakra signatures, I can sense the Tesseract acting up." Sasuke interrupted with a nearly harsh tone. "What's the plan?" "The plan is obviously to take the Tesseract before it can be used the way Loki intends." Tony piped. "The goal right now is to make sure Loki doesn't win this day. New York City must not fall, and whatever the Tesseract brings, we must keep them at bay. No matter the cost." "Agreed," Captain Rogers added quickly. "Stay frosty everyone, it'll be a bumpy fight." Zooming through the skyline of New York was an exhilarating feeling for Naruto and Sasuke. The latter, having ditched his Susanoo body, relied on Naruto's Gudadama for transport through the winding skyscrapers. Plowing through clouds and whipping past office buildings and the endless glass panes of the sky, they could see the great tower that proudly displayed the name Stark. From the rooftop, he could see Tony already disengaging his Iron Man suit, with Loki standing just a floor below the man with the scepter. The pair watched from a distance, unsure of when they should strike. It worried the two, hoping to not cause structural damage or worse, collateral damage. If the people were hurt in the ensuing chaos, they failed to protect them and Thanos would have another victory. Taking deep breaths, his eyes and Kurama's examined every street, from the main road in front of the Stark Tower, down to the various blocks and streets that surrounded it, winding like an endless pit of concrete snakes. Beside him, Sasuke was building chakra into his body, meditating and keeping his breath calm and steady. His Sharingan Rinnegan eye already examining his possible targets to switch with to catch the trickster off guard, but it was difficult to do without breaking the element of surprise that he and Naruto had at the moment. Loki was almost completely concentrated on Iron Man, but that didn't mean the god hadn't already figured them out. He was an elusive foe, while nowhere near as elusive as Orochimaru. Loki knew his fair share of escape techniques. He wasn't a pushover and knew exactly how to push someone's limits to nearly drive them insane. His magic techniques, while parlor tricks compared to the wonders of what chakra could achieve, were wonders beyond imagining. Even the various enemies they had faced in the last few months couldn't compare. Now, Tony's voice was heard. "Alright." Sasuke's Rinnegan widened. "Naruto, let's do this." The world around the blonde phased, turning into all sorts of colors for just a few moments. As the psychedelic trip came, it disappeared, revealing the confused expression of Loki. Sasuke smirked as he drew his sword. Two Gudadama reformed in Naruto's hands, both turning into staves. There was a heavy roar of repulsors, and soon enough, Tony Stark, the Iron Man, had arrived, floating up to face them wearing new armor. "It's over, Loki," Tony nearly shouted, raising his hand. "Shut down the machine. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Naruto glared, his chakra building. Loki simply laughed. "No matter what you do, no matter what strength you manage to conjure, you cannot win, Metal Man. You can talk all you wish, brood all you please, blonde oaf, you will not stop the war." "What did you switch us with?" Naruto asked with caution. The Uchiha simply shrugged in response. "I saw a couple of chairs sitting on the balcony. Are you even listening? Naruto, Sasuke." Kakashi's voice sounded in their ears. "The Tesseract. Oh fuck?" Naruto's voice trailed off. Rumbling shook the building, nearly breaking Naruto's stance. Snapping his head up to the sky, a massive blue beam shot into the sky, screeching and crying out like a rippling banshee. It came to a climax, coalescing into a single point. The clouds parted, phasing about before disappearing completely into nothingness. Reality itself began to rift, opening the cerulean skies to the endless, void expanse of space. Naruto's jaw dropped, sensing the horde that lied in wait. Suddenly small gunships flooded through the portal, immediately beginning to fire into the city. "Sasuke, you take care of Loki, Mr. Stark. Let's do this," Naruto shouted. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 8 clones appeared around him, each one blasting golden fire and shimmering in the midday morning sun. Behind him, chakra burned like a crucible, terrifying the incoming gunships as they zoomed by, dodging the rooftop of the Great Stark Tower. All around them, awestruck and almost frozen where they were, great beams of blue shot from the gunships, tearing through concrete, buildings, glass panes and cars abandoned on the main streets of Midtown Manhattan. Fires and explosions rocked the city, and this was only the first wave. "Mr. Stark, take out the stragglers, I'll try to bottleneck the portal." Naruto and his clones began to levitate, each lifting their arms to the sky. Sasuke clashed with the god, sword meeting scepter, causing sparks and great energy blasts to fly in every direction. Just as the Uchiha came around for another slice, Thor arrived, his heavy boots booming against the steel and concrete balcony. There were shouts and a few calls of rage between the god of mischief and the raven-haired Uchiha, and singing steel and energy blasts of the scepter. The melee was incredible. The floating ball of golden flame could feel the heat coming from the sheer power they used. Sasuke cursed loudly, signaling Loki's use of magic and sorcery, something that the Sharingan had trouble discerning. Even though it was magic and sorcery, the damned things delivered real damage, angering Sasuke further. Nevertheless, while Naruto knew Sasuke and the God of Thunder had it under control, he couldn't wait any longer. Rising higher than the tallest of skyscrapers of New York, his power gathered within. Siphoning his chakra into a single space on his extended and outstretched arm, chakra began to build, rotating and adding separate rotations, spinning violently as power began to pressurize. Around him, Iron Man could be seen whipping back and forth, sending missiles, repulsor beams and every other weapon in his arsenal towards the incoming horde. "Go to hell, alien shits!" Naruto roared. "Senpo! Cho-Biju Rasen Shuriken!" 9 Rasen Shuriken blasted through the New York skyline, each bearing a different element and design. The first to meet its mark was Son Goku's lava release Rasen Shuriken. As it rocketed through the sky, it melted away the metallic floating platforms of the Chidori gunships. It moved so quickly and so powerfully, it exploded mid-air, rupturing into a massive floating mass of fire and smoke, destroying much of the Chidori first wave en masse. The next 2 to arrive on target were Matabi and Shukaku's Rasen Shuriken. The blue flame latched onto the flying targets, like repellent on insects. The Chittori screeched through the air as they fell. The sand-imbued rosin shuriken smashed against the gunships, plowing through the alien steel and organics. The 2 rosin shuriken exploded as well, mirroring the first gigantic show of power. As the rest of the rosin shuriken continued flying towards the sky, more gunships were blown off path, killing the first assault before it could even truly begin. Should have started with that, Tony huffed. Would have been useful. Foresight isn't my strong point. Naruto sheepishly chuckled. Now the sky glowed several colors as the explosions died down, almost like fireworks on New Year's. It was too easy, Naruto surmised. Turning his eyes to the beastly contraption that created the portal to begin with, it was still screeching and roaring, almost as if it were drawing more power and energy to sustain and grow the portal's size. It worried the young Uzumaki. While they fought bandits and pirates through the cosmos, they haven't fought Thanos' prized Chittori. Naruto, Thor's hurt. Stark's voice sounded in his ears. The Quinjet's been shot down. They crashed just a block from us. There are way too many aliens coming in. Whipping down towards the tower once again, Naruto landed to see Sasuke's sword twirled and sheathed. Thor hissed angrily as he drew the knife from his side, tossing it away. Loki is quick on his feet, we must pursue him. We don't need to, Naruto said, barging into the conversation. The goal right now is to stop this invasion and finding a way to shut the portal down. Loki is an enemy VIP, yes, but the city is more important. Defeating the invasion will bring us to Loki soon enough. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Goldilocks. Tony nodded. We can apprehend Loki all we want, I doubt he'll close the portal. There has to be a different way. We won't find it if we keep letting them flood the city. Steve's voice sounded in their ears. Suddenly, a great rumbling howl shook the building and the city. Streets rumbled and cracked, the buildings quaked on their foundations. All eyes turned to the portal, watching as a great and powerful beast roared into existence. It snaked through the portal, covered in thick plates that looked strong enough to deflect even the strongest of beams and bullets. Its mouth was decorated with teeth barred, merged with metal and ivory. Escorting it on either side, almost 8 gunships followed. As the Leviathan floated between the buildings and skyscrapers of Midtown Manhattan, its fins and metallic outcroppings smashed through steel beams and concrete walls like a hot knife through butter. The destruction it caused was instantaneous and thorough. And it was only one. Every turn and every movement it made, the great city was nothing short of a playground for the beast. What made it worse for those watching in awe, as it passed overhead, Chittori infantry were launched from its body, dropping them off by the dozen in an almost never-ending chain. Aliens. Naruto sighed in defeat. There's always something, isn't there? Doesn't matter. We have to take that Leviathan down. Sasuke shouted. The others can handle the infantry dropping below. As the words left his lips, on the ground below, Kakashi could be seen trading blows with the infantry. Reikari blazing and crackling like Thor's own lightning-imbued Mjolnir, the master shinobi disappeared with expert grace, digging his arm through the armored chests of the Chittori with little to no difficulty. Behind him, Sakura was bashing her fists through Chittori skulls, sending them flying like rag dolls, bouncing their limp corpses against the buildings around them. The Black Widow and Hawkeye moved together like flowing water, bullets and arrows dancing through the air around them. Neither missing, neither getting hit. The Chittori infantry stood no chance in the small numbers they were in. While spies, Naruto commended their combat skills, almost enamored with how the red-headed woman moved. It was like she was dancing. Even though the hawk was using a bow, he made it work. His skill was unparalleled, moving with such expert grace, his accuracy never faltered, nor failed him. What really caught his attention though, the captain. He moved, almost like a different person. His kicks were wide, but strong and hit true. His shield always came back to him, no matter the angle. While he had no levitation or psychic abilities, his agility was something that even those with chakra struggled to maintain. He did it effortlessly, using his shield to block, deflect and attack the aliens with the skill and expertise the boy had expected of a man of his status. Iron Man had already blasted off, taking on the Leviathan himself. Mr. Stark, did you see that thing? Yeah, I'm seeing, having trouble believing. Tony replied with a little shakiness to his voice. Keep the aliens gathered in Midtown. We cannot let them spread to the rest of the city. Did Bruce show up? Dr. Banner? Steve asked with a raised brow. Why, just keep me posted, alright? Steve ducked as a beam shot overhead, connecting with an overturned taxi. The vehicle turned into a great orange and red explosion, sending fire and debris in every direction. Behind him, Sakura grabbed a sedan and hurled it into the air, letting the vehicle catch a low-flying gunship. The explosion danced through the air, shattering glass panes of the buildings surrounding them. Kakashi zipped back and forth through the Chidori lines, shaving away at their numbers, little by little. Bringing up his shield, he blocked an energy bolt from a Chidori rifle halberd. Swinging about, he bashed the vibranium bulwark into the creature, sending it flying back, broken bones and unconscious. Just as he was about to strike again, a boy covered in golden flames appeared out of nowhere. The captain watched as Naruto weaved between his enemies, using his black staves to bash his opponents, seemingly killing the Chidori with each strike. Coming up right behind him, Sasuke blasted through a small Chidori firing line. Their bodies tore apart, with black lightning dancing over their corpses. He was fast as well, far more agile than his golden companion. Once his lightning subsided, he drew his sword, slicing and stabbing at the aliens. They moved quick, trying to catch his attacks, but it was to no avail. Turning on his heels, the last of the infantry were dispatched in a blaze of lightning, courtesy of Thor, stumbling through the air. The machine has an impenetrable force field. Thor growled. I can't even break it, let alone scratch it. Thor's right, we had to deal with these guys. I have unfinished business with Loki. Naruto sighed, orange eyes trailing between the Avengers before him. Sasuke ran up to Sakura, checking up on her, making sure she was alright. Behind them, Kakashi was pulling kunai and shuriken from the dead, as Hawkeye refitting his arrows with new tips. Natasha reloaded new magazines and Cap refitted his shield, all the while, watching the walls and the skies. Well, wait in line, big guy. Hawkeye quipped. Regardless, we have an alien. Oh great, more people. Naruto sighed. We've been jumping through portals for the last few months. What was I thinking, hoping for a break? I should know by now, there's no such thing as a break. The bumbling engine of the broken-down motorcycle sputtered to a halt. Riding it was none other than the lost Dr. Banner. His clothing was different, disheveled and looked definitely oversized. Despite it all, it was relieving to see him still alive and not green. Naruto shuddered, remembering how even with Sage Mode, he struggled against the Hulk on the helicarrier. Well, this all looks terrible. Bruce managed to say, staring at the alien corpses and the raging portal floating above New York. I've seen worse. Sakura shrugged. Same. Kakashi nodded. Naruto chuckled uneasily. Yup, I've definitely seen worse. Sasuke's response was as curt as ever. Stark, Banner's here. Then tell him to suit up. I'm bringing the party to you. Screeching horror entered their ears as just down the street, the Leviathan appeared right on the Iron Man's tail. Its side fins cut through the buildings, sending debris and rubble in every direction. Thankfully, Iron Man was faster than the alien creature, blasting past the gathered Avengers with plenty of space between them and the beast. Oh baby, Naruto's fire grew intensity. I don't see how that's a party. Doctor, now would be a good time to get angry. Captain America said, trying his best to stay calm. Bruce simply chuckled. That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry. Naruto's face split in half with the brightest, most excited smile he'd worn in ages. The man in front of him turned into an 8-foot-tall green freak of nature within seconds. Quickly activating a shroud of Kurama, he encased Natasha and Steve, while Sasuke and Kakashi immediately created shrouds of Susanoo to protect the remainder of the Avengers. Dr. Banner rammed his fist into the Leviathan's face, denting it in, bringing shockwaves and the terrible screeching howl of twisting metal. Iron Man swooped in, bringing his arm up, firing a powerful micro-missile into the exposed folds of bleeding, grafted flesh. The Golden Boy nearly cheered, watching the great beast disintegrate into nothingness. Pieces flew in every direction, with chunks of meat and metal bouncing off the bridge and crashing through the streets and surrounding buildings. Naruto swore he saw its head slide across the street before popping over the barrier. All around them, the Chidori were howling, screaming and roaring at them. Some even removed their masks, revealing the razors they had for teeth. Naruto channeled the rest of Kurama, creating enough to form Kurama's torso. The Hulk beside him roared back, shaking the glass panes that haven't shattered. Smirking to himself, he and Kurama both roared as well, shaking a few Chidori off the walls like bugs. To his right, Sasuke twirled his blade, Kakashi spun his kunai and Sakura channeled her chakra, building her strength. Iron Man hovered behind, leveling himself just a few feet off the ground. One by one, the Avengers gathered, preparing themselves for the final confrontation. "Alright," Naruto smiled. "That felt badass. I just want you to know, this was just the first wave." Kakashi nodded. "Look." All heads turned to the sky, watching Leviathans pour through the portal like the small gunships of the first wave. Already, 5 Leviathans had entered New York's air lanes. Naruto could sense several more on the way. "Call it, Captain." Tony sighed in defeat. "Alright, as long as that portal is up, our priority is containment." Steve's eyes bounced between the various aliens bursting through the portal. "Barton, I want you on that roof, call out patterns and strays. Stark, you've got the perimeter, if anything gets 3 blocks out, turn it back or turn it to ash. Natasha, you and we'll be here, keeping the attention on us. And Hulk, smash, wanna give me a lift?" Barton looked over to the Iron Man. Hobbling over, Stark grabbed the archer. "Better clench up, Legolas. Kakashi-sensei. Use Susanoo and knock those things out of the sky." Naruto nodded as 8 shadow clones came into existence. "Sakura, stay with Captain America and help on the ground. I'll help with some shadow clones joining everyone else. You said to keep the fight concentrated on us? I can do that easily. Loki will come to us. Sasuke, help Thor out with his lightning. The longer we can bottleneck the portal, the quicker the bastard would seek us out. And once you're done, head off with Kakashi-sensei and knock those bastards out." Sasuke's response was as curt as ever. Jumping into the air, purple chakra shot from his body, terrifying the Chidori. The great full-body Susanoo bent its knees, flexing its wings and exploded into the skies. Cars, debris and even the corpses of infantry and pieces of the Leviathan were flung in every direction, painting the remaining buildings with blue and purple blood. Behind them, Kakashi did the same, far less showy and far less terrifying. The light blue Susanoo trailed after a Leviathan as soon as he gained air. Naruto tightened his grip on the Gudadama staves, watching as the Avengers went to work. His clones using the Rasengan once again on Chidori infantry and the Gudadama staves to their advantage. Much to his surprise, the staves melted through the alien tech and metal like a sharpened blade to thin paper. The creatures didn't stand a chance against his shadow clones. Steve seemed unaffected by the battle, moving as swiftly and as powerfully as the beginning of the invasion. Natasha, as human as she was, still fought hard, using her handguns and even picking up the Chidori rifle halberds. She twisted around them, pole vaulting over cars before blasting at the aliens, showering the concrete with their insides. She'd twist the polearm, swinging about, cutting and stabbing at the aliens in a near daze. It was incredible. Above, Hulk bashed through buildings, through Chidori infantry with such force, they were dead before they could hit the ground. He'd jump through the air with skin so thick, he'd destroy the gunships as they zoomed by, showing fire and debris to the concrete below. Snapping from his thoughts, Naruto ducked under a Chidori halberd. The glowing alien weapon weaved through the air, warm and fuzzy. Whipping around, he bashed his staves into the creature, causing it to screech uncontrollably. Twisting with trained expertise, he kicked the dying extraterrestrial away, watching it dent into a brick wall. Now, moving as if his body knew what to do, his left-handed staff flattened and rounded out into a shield resembling the vibranium wonder that Steve wielded. Sliding between purple energy bolts and halberd blades, he bashed with his shield and swung with his remaining staff. Channeling more energy, his staff flattened its length, gaining what seemed to be an edge of sorts. A quick slash here and another there, Chidori arms and severed torsos littered the battlefield around him. Their purple blood sizzling in his dancing golden flames. He sheathed his staff, turning it back into a ball. Behind him, his clones were dashing through the streets, mimicking his father's technique in the most rudimentary of ways. As they zoomed by, golden streaks remained where Chidori used to be. A Leviathan was ripped in half, mid-air by an angry Kakashi, its blood raining upon the battlefield. The two halves were dropped like trash on the side of the street. Thor latched onto a pointed building, raising his hammer and drawing upon lightning. On a building rooftop adjacent to the god, Sasuke had raised his own hand, releasing a straight beam of black lightning that merged perfectly with Thor's. Leviathans exploded in the portal, glowing with fire and shattering explosions. Chitauri infantry fell from the sky without parachutes or mobile platforms to carry them. It was vicious and terrifying, but it was working. The falling troops hit the battlefield, popping like grapes and bursting like a popcorn bag in a microwave. Naruto weaved between a pair of Chitauri infantry, his black shield burning through the organic flesh, while his sword sliced through the creature's neck. The two aliens hit the ground, dead before they could even process the concept. Charging ahead, a pair of clones were beating away several Chitauri with their bare hands and kunai knives. Steve caught his shield again, hurling it away, bashing the edge into the face of an unarmored Chitauri. Spinning on his heels, he kicked one back, creating a good pocket of space. Naruto. A woman took heaving breaths against the side of a taxi car. How can you keep doing this? A lot of training. Naruto took deep breaths. And never giving up. He could feel her eyes roll. I knew I should have asked someone else. What? Naruto whipped his wrist around, activating his spring-loaded wrist launcher. A kunai with an explosive tag strapped to the handle shot out. Something wrong with my answer? It's as childish. Natasha elbowed a Chitauri that managed to grab her. As I'd imagined it would be. Get down. Naruto suddenly cried. He tackled the redhead into the concrete, covering her in his chakra. Suddenly, a powerful explosion shattered the bridge completely. He grabbed her, using his agility and training to use. He jumped from the falling debris, dodging the various pieces of bridge and landed safe and sound with the Romanov in his arms. Before anything is said, in my defense, I didn't know that the explosive tag would be that powerful. A little warning would be nice before you decide to use explosives. Sakura nearly screeched. Explosive tag? Natasha was shaken up. What the hell? Sorry, it's a lot to explain. Naruto's eyes trailed to the sky and the remnants of the bridge. Whatever, I need a drink after this is through. Natasha leaned against the wall of the building they hid beneath. Captain, the super soldier bashed through another group of Chitauri, heading over to the group of resting fighters. What happened? What is it? This defense is fine and dandy. We can fight these bastards all day, but it won't mean a damn thing as long as that portal remains open. Natasha sighed. It sucks to say it, but someone's gotta go up there and take the device out. But Thor and Stark said none of their guns worked against its shield. Maybe it's not about guns. I'll get you up there, my clones will hold the fort. Naruto smirked. It'll be fun. Hands where I can see them, Blondie. Yeah. Wrapping his hands around the curvaceous redhead, the boy shot into the air. Channeling a thick shroud of chakra around the two, gunships and platforms were blasted out of the sky, phasing and practically melting from the sheer, raw intensity of the chakra. Pieces of metal and Chitauri fell from the skyline, raining around the Avengers on the ground. Speeding between buildings and rooftops, Naruto dropped Black Widow upon the rooftop, for one more go at shutting down the Tesseract. Just as he landed, Loki burst through one of the last remaining windows of the Stark Tower, now missing most of its letters. Naruto floated down, ready to face the god, but something unexpected happened. Hulk somehow managed to jump from the streets below and onto the highest level of the Stark Tower, which was one of the top 5 tallest structures in New York. The green beast grabbed Loki by his leg, viciously smashing him into the ground, like a brat's ragdoll. I'm making sure I never get on his bad side. Naruto whimpered softly in his head. Behind him, great shadows were cast over the city as a pair of Susanoo plucked leviathans from the sky, shattering and flattening with their big fists. While Kakashi was far more suited for melee in the giant amalgamation of chakra, Sasuke coalesced his chakra into swords of incredible length. The flaming purple blade cut through the air, arcing light and heat, destroying the invasion. Landing within the tower for the first time, his orange eyes scanned the granite tile floorings and the bar across the room. Above him, he could hear the explosions and the battle raging throughout the city and skyways. Walking about, his sandals clapped against the floor as he closed the distance between himself and the croaking god. Sucks, don't it? Naruto kneeled beside the black-haired trickster. You thought you'd become something greater than the lot you were given. You gave yourself to someone who would only use you and then toss you aside when you completed your side of whatever bargain you made. I kinda feel bad for you, Loki." The man didn't respond, shell-shocked and practically paralyzed within his crater. "Yeah, but you tried invading Earth, brought chaos to my home, for what? The Tesseract? Power? Being a benevolent god? Loki, for someone called a trickster, you've been tricked too many times in your life. I don't want to kill you. Nor does Kakashi-sensei or Sakura. Sasuke though, a knife sprang from Naruto's sleeve, clutched between his fingers and palm. He wants to kill you for threatening Earth. He wants me to do it too. Something about sending Thanos a message from Kaguya's descendants. But for your sake and Thor's sake, I won't. But that doesn't mean I'm letting you off the hook." Speeding through hand seals, and bringing up his right palm, blue seals and sand sprang from the golden circle. Gently placing his hand on the god's chest, blue calligraphy stretched around Loki, latching him to the granite tiles. Loki struggled, his eyes wide with fear and confusion, but he couldn't talk or even grunt. He was frozen in place, and there was nothing that could break that seal. Turning on his heels, Naruto levitated once again, hovering through the broken windows, taking in the sights of the city under siege and the gunfire echoing through the streets. Floating higher, he released his levitation and landed beside Natasha on the rooftop, staring at the machine for the first time. It was covered in a strange energy shield, something that not even his chakra could sense or understand. The sensation was both horrifying and interesting all the same. He reached out with his left hand, touching the invisible shield. "No," a whimper came from the side. "Don't do that. It will blow you back." "You?" Naruto whipped his head around. "I remember you. You were at the facility a few days ago." "Naruto, calm down." Natasha reached out. "Dr. Selvig was just telling me that the Tesseract has a weakness." "Not a weakness, more a loophole." The doctor scurried on, lifting one of the consoles. "Loki's scepter. The Tesseract cannot protect against itself. I think even though I was under his control, I still had a part of me conscious." "Sasuke, you hear that?" Naruto cheered. "We have a way to shut down the portal." "Naruto." His voice sounded within. The tone, the harshness of it, it sounded different. "Sasuke, what is it?" "I told you, we cannot stay here. The Tesseract is what we need. Do you really think they'll let us keep it after we save the city?" Sasuke hissed. "Close the portal, what then? We'll be heroes." "Naruto, you didn't want to leave Vanaheim after we cleared it out. This is Earth, our home. I know you. The goal is to protect Earth." Naruto responded with confusion. "How can we protect Earth? The goal is to defeat our enemies, Naruto." Sasuke shouted. "Thanos, Galactus, Dark Elves, Chidori, Skrull, all the alien bastards and even the Otsutsuki themselves. We cannot keep letting them come to us. It's about damn time we went to them." "Sasuke, what the hell are you saying?" "I'm saying, don't close the portal. Not yet." Tony's voice echoed in Naruto's ears. "There's a nuke coming to town and I know just where to put it." "A what?" Naruto looked to the redhead beside him. "It's a weapon that could destroy the entire city." The woman sighed. Looking around, his orange eyes gazed upon the smoke and skyscrapers, the apartments and high-rise condominiums. He could see the green statue holding a torch in the bay. He could see two great squares, a monument of sorts within the maze of towers and structures. Streets were full of cars, sidewalks packed with terrified civilians. Soldiers with rifles ran back and forth, trying their hardest to hold the aliens back. Men, women and children, youth and old, colors of every shade, innocence. He couldn't believe there were weapons that could do such things. Only Biju could do such horrible things. Only the Jubi could do something so horrible. But, these people, they managed to create things that could do the same. Naruto's eyes trailed to the gravel beneath his sandals. Who knows if they even mass-produced such weapons, damn it. Looking out, Iron Man was rushing through the streets carrying a massive white missile. Naruto felt his stomach drop, twist and knot. He was coming close and coming fast, dangerously fast. Suddenly, a shadow clone arrived beside him, lifting the missile just enough. The pair shot towards the sky in a near vertical ascent, heading straight toward the portal. The shadow clone popped out of existence as soon as Iron Man disappeared through the rift in reality. "Yes," Naruto cheered, pumping his fist. "Look at that." "Damn right." Natasha smirked. "Stark did it." Naruto stared at the portal as it glowed orange and red, Heat unbelievable could be seen filtering through the portal. Rippling and writhing within the portal, aliens, leviathans and Chitauri, everything suddenly died. In the streets, the aliens had surrounded the Avengers and his friends collapsed to the concrete and rubble. Their glowing accents dulled and empty. The several leviathans that managed to enter New York flipped like dead fish, collapsing and laying out onto rooftops and fallen skyscrapers. It was incredible, but just as everything seemed to look up, a great shadow disappeared from over the city. Immediately, Naruto activated his sage cloak, shooting up into the air. He could see it, he should have seen it. Naruto cursed himself, internally punching his head for being so dumb. Sasuke deactivated his Susanoo and was falling through the air at a rapid pace, close to the portal. Iron Man was sensed already making his descent back through the portal. Romanov, close the portal, now. Sasuke's shout echoed in Naruto's earpiece. Stark is gonna be fine, just do it. The power of that missile will tear through the portal and destroy the city. But, Natasha, Steve sighed. Do it. No, Naruto growled. Sasuke, no. Naruto, tell Sakura I'm sorry. Sasuke, don't do this. I'm sorry, but I have to, Naruto. Sasuke's voice held remorse, regret and maybe even a hint of sadness. All the threats that Kagaya defended against are rising. We can't stop them if we're cooped up on one planet. Then we'll go with you. Don't bullshit yourself, Naruto. Sasuke frowned. You know you don't want to. And you know what, that's okay. Someone has to watch the home front after all. I'll be back, one day. Hopefully. Sasuke. What? Be safe, brother. You too, brother. Take care of Kakashi and Sakura. They'll need you. Just as the portal began to shut, Sasuke disappeared, replaced with the unconscious, tumbling metal body of Iron Man. Before the portal disappeared, Naruto caught sight of the full-body Susanoo reforming. Speeding forward with all his power, Naruto grabbed the hero, using Senjutsu chakra to slow the falling weight. Naruto groaned, nearly knocked from the sky, but his Gudadama activated, creating a shield that hefted his weight completely. Descending from the sky, carrying the unconscious Stark, Naruto landed gracefully. Releasing the man, he collapsed too, sitting in rubble, leaning against an overturned taxicab. With his chakra cloak deactivating, Orange Wisdom turned to sapphire blues, gazing at the empty space in the sky where the wretched rift once was. The clouds had parted, leaving nothing but the sky that carried the cerulean haze of midday. It was then that he realized his lips were dry and his throat was hoarse. What happened? Where's Sasuke? Sakura jogged up to them, wiping sweat from her brow. Sakura? Naruto's eyes never trailed from the empty space. Sakura's voice went silent, emerald eyes staring at the cracks and markings of the concrete roads. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to let his sacrifice be in vain. Walking over to the strewn body of Iron Man, she ripped the mask off his face. Thor, Hulk and Captain America arrived, watching the scene unfold. Sakura rested her palms against the man's chest, hands glowing with light viridian hue. Within seconds, Stark awoke, coughing, gasping and practically shouting with surprise. His eyes looked shaken with terror, wide with fright. But coming to, seeing familiar faces, he calmed significantly. Alright, one more thing, now that you're good. Naruto's tone was stern. Loki is still up in the tower. How can you be sure? You'll see. One by one, the shinobi and Avengers gathered in the Stark Tower, quiet, stern and solemn. To the men and women gathered, Sasuke's sacrifice is on Loki. There will be hell to pay and Loki's bill just came up. Their feet rapped against granite tiles, shuffling against debris and shards of broken glass. In a crater, just like Naruto had left him, Loki was covered in purple-blue calligraphy, moaning pseudo-death throes, aching in his prison. What did Tony say, Loki? Naruto said coldly. There is no throne, no victory for you. What happens now? Naruto sighed, arms behind his back. Around them, trees of green and walkways made of brick and stone made for a perfect hideaway. Of course, there were several men, twice Naruto's size and muscle mass, that stood at various points of the park. They wore suits and shades, the classic clandestine look. Even though they were supposed to be there in secret, Thor and Loki were still wearing their Asgardian clothing and armor. So much for subtlety. Sakura stood beside the blonde, wearing clothing similar to that of the Black Widow, tight, form-fitting, just right. Kakashi looked relatively the same, but ditched his flak jacket, opting for his turtleneck shirt. And of course, keeping his mask on. Much to his comrade's surprise, Naruto actually ditched the obnoxious orange outfit, wearing blue straight jeans, ripped and stitched, a tee with extended hem and a black bomber jacket with orange stripes. His hair was wild, waving and curled, ignoring the slight spikes. He was calm, silent, almost even reminiscent. This felt like a goodbye, rather than a celebration. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto, I think I'll take a page from Sasuke's book and head out into the cosmos too. Sakura said meekly. Kagaya defended civilizations, she forged an empire. There are untold numbers of people hurt and dying and I won't stop you, Sakura. Naruto smiled softly. You are a medic, you're a healer. The universe is full of pain and needs more people like you. Go, just be safe, alright? Getting close for just a moment, Sakura kissed Naruto's whiskered cheek before breaking off and heading over to Thor and the muted Loki. The three gripped onto the Tesseract, now encased in a glass tube reinforced with Asgardian forged steel. Her pink hair waved in the cool winds of New York, glimmering her emerald eyes. Sakura, you've decided to come along? Thor asked with a smile. Good, good. A healer is always welcome when cleaning up the 9 realms. So, this is it, huh? Naruto turned to Kakashi. The end of Team 7. It was a good run, eh? Kakashi chuckled. From our time, fighting in wars since we were kids, to traveling across planets and entire time periods? Definitely. What do we do, now that half our team is gone and we have absolutely no idea of this time period? Naruto asked. Shield. Natasha smiled. We are always in need of talented individuals. You've earned my respect, Naruto. As a fighter and a comrade. You too, sis. Naruto smirked. Shield, huh? That doesn't sound too bad, Kakashi-sensei, what do you say? Or, you could come with me. I need some clever individuals to help out with some business things. Maybe even a potential subordinate. Stark looked to the white-haired man. You're smart, you'd fit right in. Also, alien tech is still misunderstood and you have a lot of experience, give some thought. I might take that offer, Mr. Stark. Kakashi smiled beneath his mask. Spying and all that fun, maybe a change of pace and scenery is what I need. Everyone's leaving. Naruto's eyes trailed to the concrete. Man, I knew it would happen one day, I just didn't expect again so soon. Oh, don't worry, Goldilocks. Tony clapped his shoulder. We'll all just be a phone call away. A what? A phone, never mind. Tony sighed. You'll learn eventually. Wait, so where do I go? Naruto asked with a raised brow. Clint chuckled, motioning for an SUV. You're riding with me and Natasha, it's not like you're joining S.H.I.E.L.D. without any background checks and prior testing. Also, you need a place to stay, that is if you accept our offer. A burst of energy rippled through the air and soon enough, Thor, Loki and Sakura had disappeared from Earth, leaving Naruto and Kakashi with the rest of the Avengers. It wasn't long before Stark, Banner and Hatake took off into the distance, off to do God knows what. Naruto took a long, heaving breath, trying to ignore the knot in his chest, trying to ignore the fear beginning to rest in his heart. It was part anxiety, all worry. A new world, new time, new friends, new purpose. There was no village to be Hokage of, there was no clan to fight for. There was no Hokage had to achieve, no one else but them who had chakra. There was no Akatsuki, no great, world-ripping war. The comrades he had grown to love and trust with every ounce of his soul were gone. His best friends split off to complete their self-imposed destinies, while he himself had no idea what he was going to do. Walking along, he opened the SUV door, jumping into the back and clicking his seatbelt. Natasha was in the passenger seat while Barton decided to drive. Windows rolled up, seats leaned back, air conditioning blasting, even with the early May breeze. While he may be lost to time, he was damn sure going to find his way.